everybody. This is James diboe on Discovering Season 3. And we're back again, and we got a special guest on today, Mr. Curtis Watts. How you doing, Curtis?
That's cool, thanks. Yeah, I'm great. It's what with no S. Everybody always smudges a little
Curtis
S
what?
on it. Yeah, man, Curtis what? Because it sounds unnatural, doesn't it? What?
Right, okay. Apologies anyway. Well, anyway, we're going to get into your timeline. You know, you've been working within the community for a long time. You have a long history. Man. You've taught black history in schools, in the communities. I've seen you playing the drums.
Yeah.
You work for Mandela 8. Yeah, you're also an author. You know, you're a poet as well, aren't you?
Yeah,
you know, so we're going to deal with your timeline on your history. So if you want to begin from how you got into working within the community in the beginning.
Yeah, well, I started acting in the Playhouse Youth Theatre when I was 15 because I went to boarding school. A lot of people out there might know of Glenallen Boarding School.
I've heard of it, yeah.
Colomendy Camp, it was there.
Yeah.
By the way, just for the record, it wasn't a naughty boys school. A, it was boys and girls, and B, you didn't get sent there, you just chose it as an option.
Right.
Because everyone goes, oh, that was the naughty boy. And no. There's one called Bryn Allen or something.
I've heard
people
that.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, when I'd come back, like I would hang out with like my mates, and they were getting, at that age, they were getting into a bit of like organised crime. You know what I mean? Some of them, not all of them, but yeah, and they were like just on the lowest tier of stealing things to sell to the older lads that they could sell on and all this kind of stuff. And my mum used to always say, if I find you stealing, I'll take you down to the police station myself, that kind of discipline,
Yeah.
So I started having nightmares, man, when I come back on holidays, that I was going to get chased by the police and all this. So I just walked down the street looking for something to do. It wasn't any, like, youth centres, but most of them, I didn't like the vibe in a lot of them, you know what I'm saying? So I wanted to do something more, so I went down to the theatres, went to the Everyman, the Unity, there was no room at the inn, and then I went to the Playhouse and knocked on their stage door, and they put me on a 6-month waiting list. But on the account that there was no, very few lads on, in youth theatres in those days. It's okay now, it wasn't kind of okay then. Socially, like with your mates and that, it was a bit stigma, So anyway, long story short, I ended up getting a professional role in a play when I was 15, like 10 weeks later, or no, just a couple of months later.
Great.
On the back of that, left school and everything, went to performing arts college. That was the start of me being an artist in that sense, performing artist and whatever. And I was lucky to get like a few theatre roles over the years, and then but as soon as I left that college, it was a 2-year diploma course. So I got on a course which a lot of people again will be familiar with, which is called CADT, Centre for Arts Development Training. And that was just that was life-changing for so many people in the city. A lot of older artists that you see now have established themselves within and beyond the city started off in that centre, and that was a 6-month course. I was lucky enough to have my course extended by another 6 months.
Right.
So that was really lucky because I could really get down to the research. And what I was researching then, you would have been interested in this, because I was going to auditions at the time a lot and stuff like that. And, you're spending your own money travelling and all this kind of stuff. And it started to get to a point where I'd get to auditions, say in London, and someone would go, oh, you've just got out of prison, you're a bit of a lad. I want you to approach this guy and say, where's my money? And all those type of, it got a bit samey of like these criminal roles and whatever. Now, I played a really good criminal role, which I got on, a proper, TV drama. That was fun, really doing a proper personality, having a personality. But these smaller roles and these independents and other things, I just so what I did was I was researching the creation. I didn't end up finishing it. I did a whole feasibility study on it and stuff. I had the Black Actors Handbook. The whole point of that was to sort of try and ascertain when I'm going to auditions, when 100 people go to an audition, one person's going to get it.
Yeah.
There's nepotism in every industry, so you're going to get where it's somebody's friend or they've worked with them a lot and they want, certain directors pally up with certain actors and things or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So it was like, I went around London for 5 weeks, did research there, researched here as well, like around all the black theatre companies and stuff, and just interviewed all from actors to directors, producers, people who ran community organisations and whatever. And just was trying to figure out, how do you know if there was any element of racism going on, or bias at least. it was difficult to figure that out. I mean, it's quite deep. You know, you can't really prove any of those things, can you? You know, so.
Where did you learn to play the drums?
I mean, many people don't know Francisco Carrasco.
The guy from Chile.
Yeah, and his brother Oscar. So I met Francisco through my friend's uncle, and then I bumped into him in the Unity Theatre one day. This when I was 16, and so I was 18 at the time. And anyway, he was the first person to let me have a go with djembe, because they're so sacred to a lot of people. They won't let anybody go near them, you know, especially kids, you know.
Yeah.
So and I started playing with the Carrasco brothers, you know, in charity events and, you know, sort of socialist gatherings in clubs and stuff like that, you know, around
town. Did they teach you how to play the drums, the African drums?
Well, they started me off on the djembe, but I was actually playing what was some people call a dun-dun, which has got the bass on either end and you hit it with a stick.
Yeah.
So, you know, I started off playing that, and I'd play it sometimes upright like snare sort of style, and I'd hit the wood, the frame of the wood as well as the skin, and I had a little technique going.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't formally trained in any of it, but they just showed me a few moves, got in there. I've always like been tapping on the table. You might be like that yourself, you know what I'm saying? So I got into it. But what happened was, when I was on that course, we went to South Africa.
South Africa, yeah.
Went to South Africa for 4 months.
Wow.
And we travelled, you know, around like with the townships and everything. And, you know, I mean, I was in a bad place at that time. But by the time we went there, I was 21. You know, I was 20 when they asked me to go. But I was with like a group of like 16 other artists, and most of them, you know, they were just like geniuses within and you know, there's one guy, Beggy himself, who when his name sort of looks like it says Becky, but they say Beggy. When I tell people I worked with him and another guy, and Eugene Skeefu put it together, and Tebby Leperi, who was our master drummer. Some people like don't even believe me, because these people are superstars, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But you know, even people my own age, like around my own age, they were really, really talented. You know what I'm saying? I was only just like, I was doing acting. I was good at acting and that, but I could play a bit of guitar, or whatever. But I didn't consider myself like a musician or anything like that. Just poet at that point, you get me? And I used to do visual art as well. So
you're quite multi-talented.
Yeah, man.
You know, poems, like. Yeah, right. I remember you were kicking bars one time.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I mean, me, you know, TL Ridge. Most people don't see much of anymore. The JC, you know, we were around along with the, you know, first in command. I know you've had Mervyn here.
Toucan, yeah.
You know, him and David Mensah, you know what I'm saying? And they, you know, it was around that time when it was just like Liverpool was peaking in hip-hop coming up, and everyone was starting to put little things together. I just started off with a student band from college, to be honest, in Southport, man. And we had a rapper, and they didn't want the rapper anymore. I was doing singing hooks for the the choruses in a sort of Curtis Mayfield style, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it was like we're doing like mixes of jazz and rock and all different things with rap over, and then but for some reason the band guy, you know, they all fell out with the rapper, so they ended up asking me to rap, and that's how I got into rap. But then I started rapping with me homies from the ends, you know what I'm saying?
Rather than people from Southport.
Well, no, I mean, I was working. The thing is, I was working with a guy who used to produce for Bjork, you know, and things like that. It was. You know, I got like, when the NBA came out, the Merseyside Black Awards, I think that was 97. You know, everyone got a little track on that CD, and then there were lots of, you know, A&R people running around Liverpool for all the labels looking for new talent. Okay. So, you know, even myself, I got a lot of interest. I nearly got a good publishing deal, but I didn't like the contract, so and then I regretted it years later, and now I don't regret it at all.
No.
No.
Yeah, well, also, you know, you've taught Black history in the schools and within the community. You know, tell us a bit about that. You know, I've got nephews, they've told me that you came to their schools and taught them. So tell us a little bit about the teaching in Black history.
Yeah, I mean, you know, again, my education in Black history really did start at the point I was talking to you about before, when I was on that CADT course.
Oh, on the course, yeah.
Yeah, and there was a lot, you know, we used to stay, I think we finished at 5 or whatever, and we used to stay there till like 6:30 having debates and everything, you know what I mean? There was a cultural module.
Yeah.
So I was learning things, like I said, there was things that weren't exactly accurate, but I'm not you know, that's for me. No, I'm not going to judge people on getting that wrong when the information was difficult to get.
Yeah.
You know, we had source books there.
No internet back then.
Yeah, man. But we had, you know, we had our bookshop there in Myrtle Parade back in the day.
I heard about the bookshop.
Books, man. Yeah. And then, you know, when I was travelling in London and that, I picked up a lot of books, which I've still got to this day, because obviously they had a great resource in Covent Garden, the African Centre and all that.
Right.
So I was going around all them places, you know what I mean? In Camden, they had little bits going on. And so, you know, I just like was self-educated in that. I can't say I knew that much, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, I take notice up until present day.
Well, being self-educated, you know, that's sometimes you've got to self-educate because sometimes it's not there to be taught to you.
No, of course.
You know, I mean, I'm lucky, like, my father's Nigerian, so I already knew where we were from, our tribe, village, everything like that. But obviously I've got Caribbean side as well. Yeah. So that's a story. You have to do DNA tests and all that to find out what part of Africa, what tribe, you know.
Oh, yeah, man,
you know, a bit more to it. So, but it's good to be self-taught. You know, your background's Caribbean, is that right?
Yeah, St. Kitts.
St. Kitts.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, so for yourself, I mean, it's a self-discovery. It's just, you know, it's even more than important.
Yeah.
I mean, someone's taken your last name away, you know, took you from your land, and then, you know, we can go on to all the negativity, but we're not going to go too much into that. Let's keep it positive.
Yeah, for real. One thing I did in South Africa, I mean, we did a lot of amazing projects in South Africa, but one thing that stood out to me is when we went to Joburg, I think it was called the Johannesburg Polytechnic or something like. Anyway, I did a workshop in there, and what I was doing, I'd been looking into, you know, Kush, and I'd been looking into, you know, the Nubians and how that interacted with Egyptian history. And what I was doing, because I was writing for theatre sometimes as well. We did a few shows in the Unity and stuff like that, and we did some tours and stuff. But so I was much interested in like story development and how stories develop over time. Like, I don't know if you ever read Joseph Campbell, The Hero with 1,000 Faces.
No, not that
it's
one.
Where he broke down. I mean, it was, you know, George Lucas was one of the main people who was influenced by that book, because it was showing how does this archetypal like hero story template that is like, we won't accept it. It's things being a story. It doesn't go to a certain order. If you do all stories in some skew with experimental way, people go, well, I don't quite get that. So it's like this hero journey thing. And so what I did is I went into this session. You know, I'd already been in South Africa for about like, you know, nearly 2 months by that point. So I was noticing they were all heavily into Boys to Men and loads of R&B like that, you know, into a lot of American gospel and stuff like that. And Michael Jackson, they were massive on Michael Jackson. And I went in and I was telling them, even in the townships, I would tell the kids, I say, listen, man, see all this music you love and the dancing that they're doing and that, where do you think that comes from? Because they hadn't heard that, you know what I'm saying? Okay. That was a generation very close to the end of apartheid, you know what I'm saying? They didn't just rolled out of it by then.
Did you get much racism when you were out in South Africa, or was it just because it was different for you coming in from another country? Or
well, no, because, you know, obviously they had the caste system there. If I'd have been born there, I would have had coloured on my birth certificate. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Caste systems, like it's like India, isn't it? And you know,
So I mean, and they still, I mean, Indians have a higher status above coloured. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's a white, Indian, coloured, black. I'm doing this upwards, but it's kind of going down. Would you get me? So you know, when you were in this Steers, which was their sort of, you know, burger bar, I did used to eat chicken, and I don't anymore, as you know, I'm veggie.
Okay, vegan now, or vegetarian, or
mostly
vegan?
Plant-based veggie. If I call myself vegan, I'll have campaigners outside my house, man.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Hypocrite. I'm wearing a leather belt. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But yeah, and when we first started going in there, you'd be in the queue, and if you went like right behind the person in front of you, someone would just like, walk in front of you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So, yeah, that was strange. You could tell it was completely unconscious. It was just what they did. Those people, those adults there, grew up like that. In the bank, most of the tellers in the bank we were going to were Asian, and they would again, you've got to ask yourself, this is my problem, is there a chip or a grip on your shoulder? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, well, you know, people, they would like sort of lean round you to ask a white person to come forward.
Oh, okay.
Because they don't just come out of this system within like this. You know, a few.
And I mean, we're going back.
We're going back, man. This was 95, bro. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but that's, you know what? It's like Australia, where, you know, how the Aborigines get treated, or, you know, well, the Native Americans, look what happened to them. You know, it's just the same thing everywhere you go. People of color always have to suffer. Always, everywhere you go, it's just like a repeated thing. I've just seen it everywhere. The bottom of the barrel when I've travelled around. Everywhere you go. Yeah. You know, and then that's why there has to be, to me, a creator or some sort of spiritual force that's going to stop all this in the end. Well, you know, obviously it's down to us.
Yeah, I was going to say
unifying. You know, that's what it's also down to. It's not just some wait for something to come out the sky or something like that. I don't mean like that.
Yeah, for real. I mean, for me, it's absolutely going back to what you were talking about to do with working in schools and stuff. I mean, for me, like, I started working in schools when I was 18, doing workshops with sixth formers who were like a year younger than me or whatever.
Yeah.
Which felt weird because I didn't want to see myself in like a teacher thing, and I wasn't that confident then. It's not like my workshops were like great or anything, and it was just drama workshops, but based around, it was we started a play. We wrote a play when it was the 500 years since Columbus landed. You know, the first landing.
Yeah.
The maiden voyage, and there were movies out and stuff. So we did a sort of counter play to that, you know what I mean? Which was about like from the native perspective.
There are always misconceptions of when anything to do with like Americans, Columbus discovered America. You know how so retarded, really. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of them, isn't it? It's like, I mean, the whole word discovery can be played around with in whatever way you want to. You know what I'm saying? So I know people, he didn't discover it. Well, for him, he did. He knew it was there when he got there, on a personal level.
It's on a play for them.
As far as the place in itself.
The more's out can get there.
Yeah, man.
You know, they couldn't navigate.
Yeah, for real. Yeah.
But that's why we always deal with the importance of African history on this show. You know, where anybody who comes on, whether you're promoting your business, promote whatever you do, we always deal with the importance of African history.
Yeah, for real.
So when we spoke on Black history before, now I'm speaking on African history. Yeah, you see the difference in what I mean, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
on the timeline period. Yeah. So how important do you think we need to be taught our history, Curtis?
Well, for me, I mean, again, I'll go back to experiencing it in South Africa, not just in South Africa. When we were working in London for 2-3 months on the run up to going there, so I was staying in London a lot, and I was around people who weren't just musicians; they were spiritual. And you know, when we were talking about the drum, it wasn't like when you're a kid and you get a little drum set and you just bah, 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 bah. You know, there were ways of playing it and things. There were certain rhythms, and so I mean, the thing is, I was in a pretty bad place. I'd lost my mum, you know, when I was 19. So around the time I found out I was going to South Africa, I was really in a weird place, you know what I'm saying, for that age.
Yeah.
And so by the time I got there, it wasn't like I had the highest self-esteem or anything, but you know, they chose me to go. They thought I had something to take there, do you know what I'm saying? And it really gelled. But as far as as far as like how important African culture is, it's just, I always, like, if I would hear even like a sort of like pop song, like Adam and the Ants and people like that, right? Yeah. Where they'd have like drums, like sort of, you know what I'm saying, tribal sound and drums and things like that. It would always attract me when I was a kid. Do you know what I'm saying? And I would always like get obsessed with things like that.
A spiritual connection.
Yeah. In the household I lived, we listened to loads of different music, but not really any African music or reggae. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, when you've listened to music for years, different kind of music, you know, you can connect spiritually to the music, you know.
Yeah. But
very deep. You can go really deep into it if you want, you know what I mean?
But this is what I'm saying, right? Because Tebby Lapierre, who any South African people might know his name here, or people who go to a lot of festivals, but you know, he's traveling constantly, making music, you know, in bands and things like that in festivals. So anyway, he was from a line of Sangoma, which is the healers, you know.
Okay.
It's usually female, as I don't know that much about it. It's usually female, but not exclusively. And he was initiated while we were there.
Right.
We got to play djembe, you know, at his after ceremony. You don't get to see the private ceremony and everything, but you know, he was a very like powerful guy to be around. A lot of people go there, you know, the actual South Africans who'd been exiled, which is why they went back then, but they wanted to take an art project with them. So I was learning about like all these polyrhythms and things that can kind of trance you out a little bit and stuff, and this yodeling thing. They have their own like African yodel, isn't it? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Don't ask me to do it now, man. I don't know if you can hit one down the mic there. No.
Me? Spit bars?
Nah, man, the yodel. It's like no, but you know, being around those people, like, it was strange, man, to feel these spirit things through the instruments they were playing. No, the marimba, like the xylophone type, you know what I'm saying? I remember Tebby and Eugene Skeefy put the project together. They were in a party, and you know, we were all just like, we'd eaten and everything, and some people were playing piano in one room, and it was just one of them vibes, creative people. And Eugene, I reminded Eugene about this when I saw him a few months ago. He was playing this marimba in some like, he's playing it in some certain way that it wasn't in like a 4/4 beat or something. It was in a beat that changes in the round.
Yeah.
And Eugene like goes into a sort of trance anyway when he plays musical instruments, man. And then Tebby's whispering incantations down his ear. Now Tebby, I think, was Xhosa, you know what I'm saying? I think he was from that tribe, but Eugene's from Zulu. I hope I'm getting that right. But anyway, he's whispering these like incantations down, and Eugene's going in this trance, you know, just playing like, and I remembered it, I think, more than he did. Yeah, man, you know what I mean? And I was just like feeling vibes from music I'd never ever experienced before, man. And then obviously when we were there, you know, you're there and people believe in all these things. Most of the people we met were Christian, you know what I'm saying? But you know, people believe in a lot of things, like the Sangoma and the you know, what's it called? The Abatagati is the sort of ones who use it for the bad side, so to speak, or whatever.
I mean, I've seen places where like you have obviously Christianity, but the culture is also strong as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You know, there's still, you know, like you're not supposed to. For example, people were trying to get photos of the lightning.
Yeah.
And if you say, no, you can't, don't photograph lightning.
So when I'm always like researching about Africa or something like that, you know, I want to try and find the roots of the cultures.
Yeah, yeah.
So obviously I'm looking at South Africa, they talk about the Khoisan.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, but you've also got other people there who are Bantu.
Yeah,
The Bantus, you know, they spread all around sub-Saharan Africa, you know.
Yeah, man.
So it's interesting when you say South Africa, you know. Let's go back. I mean, look at the Zimbabwe. I know it's a separate country, but that's Southern Africa too, isn't it?
Yeah, then it's right on the border of the north and south. Yeah, you know, is it the Lemba?
You're talking about the Lumbabone?
No, the tribe who always said that they were one of the 12 tribes from the Old Testament, and they said they came down through Yemen.
Oh, I know.
And they brought the Ark of the Covenant with them.
I've seen that.
Yeah, man.
Now, because I'm not a religious person, it's hard for me to, but I deal with history.
Yeah.
So I can see migration from Africans, because don't forget the ancient Egyptians came from the south. They didn't come from Europe, they didn't come from Eurasia, they came from Nubia, Kush, and you can even go further down the Nile, Uganda, and other parts of sub-Saharan Africa. But people forget about the floods. Like I remember I was having a conversation one time about the floods.
Yeah.
You actually mentioned it to me about 11,000 years ago. You were talking towards in Asia.
The Younger Dryas and all that, yeah.
Yeah, so I think you were talking about the time when the Indonesian islands were connected more, and Papua New Guinea was connected to Australia.
I don't know if I was talking about that far back, but
you remember you mentioned about floods. We had a conversation.
Oh yeah, for real, yeah.
Some people, there's a biblical flood, but then there's the scientifical flood. So you know about the scientifical flood?
Yeah, the Younger Dryas flood. You know,
like the Sahara,
the ice melted and the seas rose up to something like, wasn't it? I don't know, some
it's ridiculous.
There's different places where it rose, but I think in some places they're saying it rose like
100 meters.
Something
300
like
meters I've seen, or 400 meters.
Yeah, 400 feet or 400 feet or something. Anyway, I'm not going to quote that.
Yeah, but it's hard to imagine that, like how high.
Well, it was sudden, and you can see a little bit when we have flash floods lately. There's been these flash floods horrible in Germany and France and the Netherlands.
Nature's attacking.
Yeah, man.
Got to treat the earth a lot better.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Angles and Saxons came over here because they were having floods because there was a little period of global warming going on at the time, didn't you say? So, these things happen, but I don't know. I just know that the flood, there's way over like 500 versions of those stories, man, around the world.
Everyone has their own versions, don't they?
Very similar. So some stuff happened.
An interesting one, when I look at the Sahara Desert, though, when that was originally
lush.
Yeah,
man. Yeah.
I mean, even in northern Nigeria, you have the Dafuna canoe. You know what they found, the oldest boats that they found. You know, that's about 8,000 years ago, about 6,000 BC.
Yeah.
So, and then you can look at maybe Lake Chad. There was supposed to be very old civilizations there. You know, Congo, they have the oldest mathematical tool, the Ashango bone. That's dated to about 25,000 years ago. You know, they also have the lumber bone, about 35,000 years ago. So there's too much. No one could even say how old is African civilization.
Yeah.
Because we get this topic. Some people want to start it with Egypt. Some people want to start it with Ethiopia. And then there's not enough research spent on West Africa. And I believe Southern Africa and also Central Africa. A lot of it's concentrated in Egypt.
Yeah, for real, of course, yeah.
You know, I know it's a big tourist and the pyramids are there, but, you know, you got to look at who were the people who give the idea for them pyramids. They came from the south. You know, this is what we don't get credit for.
Yeah, man, yeah. I was watching, listening to somebody, they were talking about, like, the interchange between Kush and Egypt. And I'm talking about, like, they were trying to figure out, like, what came from where, like, you know what I'm saying? Because there was, even after Egypt was established, you know, like, there was still interaction going on, even though they kind of fallen out with each other in the latter dynasties.
Well, according to Chancellor William, destruction of the black civilization from 4000 BC to 2000 AD. In that book, he states about 3100 BC, when the Nubians, Narmer, conquers and retakes Egypt back.
Yeah.
He retakes Egypt back to reinstall what was once there, because when they had a fallout, it wasn't a fallout from Egypt and Nubia. It was the people outside, Europeans and Eurasians, who were always coming in, trying to get in on the trade and always attacking when they can.
Yeah.
And then they're trying, because we had all the spirituality. So later when it's reached India and the Hinduism comes out of it, because every religion all owes its dues to Africa. You can see thousands and thousands of years ago, way before any of these religions existed, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, well, I was looking at an interesting study because, and this one was sort of based around Australia.
Yeah.
We could apply this to anywhere that's been colonized, you know. Well, you know, like in some Australian tribes, because people don't realize the Aboriginal tribes, man, there's lots of different tribes.
That's right.
Speak different dialects and everything, different religions. So it was about, like, they were saying, well, you always assume that if anybody has, like, a monotheist system, religious system, that it was sort of adopted from something Judeo-Christian.
Oh, no.
Yeah, man, where this guy's looked into and he's gone, no, man, these already, if you look at the letters that the colonialists were writing and all this, most of them already had a monotheist religion.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
This is very important.
Obviously, there was animism.
Yeah.
Or there would be, like, an overarching god and lower gods, like in Greece and things, a pantheon. You know what I'm saying?
Well, a lot of tribals I've seen in Asia and that, sometimes they, like the Aslis, they were talking about, they have a supreme being and they control the lesser beings.
Yeah.
Like, sort of similar what you said. It all relates. People can tell it differently from different perspectives, but I think it all relates to the unseen. And, you know, what you can't see, you know, maybe you can feel, but you can't see, you know, going beyond, isn't it? And you start going deep.
Yeah, man, I mean, if you look at the sun, and we've been, you know, obviously scientists have looked into, and it's a ball of gas, basically. You would never think of that, you know, back in the day until anyone figured that out with instruments and whatever, you know, so... If you look at that, and I often look at it this way, kind of like, because I know this might sound weird to some people, but I kind of had this theory that that everything is living, you know, like planets, that are a living being. The sun is a living being, because I put it this way, if there's a bacteria on this table, there's many, you know what I'm saying? And it's experiencing me being here. What it's really experiencing is a lot of chemicals raining down on it.
Do you think that's why the Egyptians said Amun-Ra, the sun god?
Well, this is what I'm saying, but sun god culture is everywhere. Planetary culture.
No, it's everywhere.
planets, moons, you know, it's all, because you're looking at that and you're looking at the shapes and the stars now.
Yeah.
When you know yourself being in places where there's no artificial light.
The sun's the greatest attribute.
Yeah, man, and then you think if someone had put a plant out of the sight of the sun, do you know what I'm saying, and that plant shrivels up, you're going to think, oh, the sun gives life.
That's
the sun
right.
is what creates life. Do you know
Greatest attributes outside of what we call.
Yeah. So when
creator.
you study a lot of these things, and it's not, and again, I'm kind of, I've said that abstract thing about believing things are living, because, like I say, if a bacteria there, it's not going to think, oh, this is a person, a big giant, a human being. It doesn't know that. It's got no eyes or ears. It's just going to experience all these chemicals and this energy that it can eat some of it. You know what I'm saying? Some of it might be dangerous for it. It might move out the way. So it could be just like that. That's because I'm thinking if something's got a process, you have solar flares on a massive scale, well, on a big scale, every 11 or so years, right? To me, what if that's just like, if we were speaking to and a bacteria did it only lives for 2 days, you know what I'm saying? It's only going to see one sound wave coming out, and it's the time that it can experience anything. It's only going to experience one sound wave come out. It won't know whether it's a language or it's reaching you across the table. It doesn't know you exist. You know what I'm saying?
Can they sense vibrations though?
Well, I'm just using that as a
no.
I'm saying if you're a lower life form and there's higher life forms, you won't exactly recognise them as life forms. That's in the same way you don't recognise microscopic things as like, you know, integral life forms in any way most of the time. You know what I'm saying? I think, you know, people have thought everything we've got now. People have wondered about since humans have ever existed, and some people are going to experiment, and not people who've logged it all, and the ones who didn't log it all, or the culture got destroyed, and all the evidence got destroyed. Man, you never know. But I just know human nature. We've always been curious, and we're always trying to figure out what is this, what's that. We feel like it's our role to like figure everything out. You know what I'm saying? So I just think I can't discredit anybody sort of like,
I think that, you know what it is as well, you know, as human beings, of course, we've always wanted to learn as much as we can, but I feel like that some people go a bit too far. They're too curious, want to go to the moon, and, you know, don't mess with nature. You know,
I don't know, bro, because
nature, I mean, some people love like artificial intelligence and these kind of things. It's people are going to lose who humanity is. We're going to lose who we are if we keep going. If you go too far,
we're at risk of it, definitely, potentially. I mean, you know, if you didn't mess with nature, we wouldn't have houses. You know what I'm saying? We wouldn't have taps for water. We just have to go down to a watering hole. So I think we are part of nature.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? Like honey, nature itself doesn't just make honey, but bees do, and we consider them part of nature, even though that's artificial. It's made by a life form, the way we make plastic and things like that. It's the only life form that can make that type of honey. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't really claim to know like where we're going and all that stuff. I don't know, bro, because it's like there's always going to be people who are against whatever systems are put up. You know, there's always going to be cat and mouse and things like that. So who's going to win, where, and when, and how? That's kind of my question.
Well,
you know what I'm saying?
You know, well, we'll see in the end, but we're coming to the end of the show anyway. But it's been an interesting discussion anyway, Mr. Curtis.
Sweet, man.
And you know, appreciate your time. And we're out of here for today anyway. I'm your host, James diboe, on Discovering Season 3, and thank you.
Nice one.
Peace
bro.
out, Curtis.
Yeah, man. Peace.